Happy Rumble weekend, everybody. You're listening to episode 45 of the Wrestling Fans Insight. I'm joined by my co-host, William Hoppy. How's it going, bro?
Fantastic. How are you?
I am peachy.
Okay, then.
Well, just go with peachy.
All right.
And we also have our other co-host, Carlos. Carlos, how's
Hello,
it going,
everybody?
bro?
Good. I'm on a Royal Rumble hangover right now.
Well, that's a better hangover than the other type of hangovers, I guess.
For sure, I agree. I can't have those anymore.
Probably for good reason too, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Of course, now that I have a office job, I can actually start doing that a little more now.
Drinking at work?
Well, I'm not drinking at work, but I can drink at night. So, no more getting home at 6 o'clock at night and.
Hey, we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
John will be coming to work with sunglasses on.
We'll see what type
Smoking
of headache.
a cigarette.
We'll see what type of headaches this job brings to me. Oh Lord. Well, anyways, why don't we just kind of get a general feel? William, how'd you feel about this week's programming?
I think it was actually really, really good, except for Rampage kind of just dropped the ball for the middle part of the card again.
Yeah, I semi-agree with that. Carlos, what's your thoughts?
I don't agree with the Rampage thing. I think besides the Will Hobbs match, I thought everything else was good. The thing is, we have a podcast, so obviously we're going to come on and criticize, but like for Raw 30, I thought it was very entertaining, very fun. I wish they would have I wish there would have been more matches instead of 3 matches, or there was 4 matches altogether. I just wish we would have saw more action, but at the same time, it was very entertaining. I really didn't like NXT that much this week. Again, I mean, I'm glad they showcased the women, but it just felt kind of flat to me. I thought SmackDown was very good. I thought AEW was very well, and then of course Royal Rumble was amazing. Besides the middle part.
Well, then, for those of you who listen to us religiously, you notice we're missing one of our co-hosts, Heather. Sending our well wishes to her.
Absolutely.
She's dealing with some personal issues, and we're just hoping she'll be back with us next week. It's just going to be a kind of a week-to-week basis with her. But Heather, looking forward to having you back when you're ready. But please know that you can always count on us to support you in any way we can. So please don't be afraid to reach out to us. As kind of a way to pay tribute to Heather, yeah, I'm going to say NXT. Nope, no way. Nope. Hell no. I was actually really looking forward to seeing Heather's reaction to the ending of the Royal Rumble last night, but we'll get to that when we get to that segment, because we're going to switch up the normal format today. We're going to actually go ahead and start with the AEW results. And without any further ado, let's go right into Dynamite, where the opening we see the Les Sex Gods, Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara, defeating the team of Ricky Starks and Action Andretti for the TNT Championship. Darby Allin retains his gold over Buddy Matthews. We see Jungle Hook, I had to reread that, Jungle Hook defeating the team of Matt Hardy and All Ego Ethan Page. Bryan Danielson gets a victory over the Machine Brian Cage. Did I say Bryan Danielson?
Yeah.
Okay, I wanted to make sure I said it right. Ruby Soho gets a victory over Toni Storm. And in a tribute match in honor of Jay Briscoe, Mark Briscoe gets a victory over Jay Lethal. And for Rampage, opening it off, Hangman Adam Page pretty much tears apart Wheeler Yuta. In a trios match, Jay Lethal, Jeff Jarrett, and Satnam Singh defeats the team of Danhausen and Best Friends. Powerhouse Hobbs over...
Best Friends, right?
Did I say Best Friends?
Yeah, you did.
Oh, okay. I just heard Carlos say something. Powerhouse Hobbs...
I lost you for a second.
Oh,
sorry.
You're good. Powerhouse Hobbs defeats Tony Mudd. That's a hell of a name. And in the AEW Women's Eliminator match, Jamie Hayter destroys the hopes for Emi Sakura. Why don't we go ahead and start with Carlos on his thoughts with both Dynamite and Rampage.
So, with Rampage again, if Chris Jericho's on the card, he's either going to open or close it. I thought it was a fun opening match. I really didn't want to see Action Andretti lose this quick early in his career, but it was likely when you're feuding with Jericho. I thought Jungle Hook, Ethan Page, Buddy Matthews and Darby Allin, I thought it was a really fun match. I definitely want to see. I want to see more. I want to see, like, Darby made his offense look like $1 million, which is again a good thing, and I definitely want to see more. But Eagles action when he was in the 205, he was like one of my favorite wrestlers, and it just reminded me about like why I like him so much and I enjoy his wrestling. Jungle Hook versus Ego Page and Matt Hardy was another entertaining match. Again, it was just a fun match. I mean, for me, this card had a lot of my favorite wrestlers on it, so I enjoyed the card altogether. Again, Bryan Danielson against Brian Cage definitely delivered. I was glad to see Cage actually get protected in the match by only losing by a roll-up. I love that I love the after bell attack that led to a match. Then again, I like the, people say that AEW doesn't have storytelling, but it does, because it definitely was attacking Bryan Danielson's arm, and it's leading to a match with Timothy Thatcher. I love seeing how MJF came down too and was like ripping the ring bell out of the ring girl's hand. I thought that was really cool and good intensity. I thought the family therapy thing was entertaining. Again, I'm not really excited for this feud, but it definitely had, WWE feels to it. It was good sports entertainment. I'm not ready for Daddy Ass to turn on the Acclaim yet, though, and I feel maybe that's going to happen, and that kind of scares me a little bit. And then again, I thought the tribute to Jay Briscoe with Mark and Jay Lethal was awesome. I just think, like Mark Briscoe going out there, not even having, and this again, it's like there's nothing wrong with crying, like I think there's nothing wrong with men crying at all. I think it's a natural thing. I used to get teased about that at work sometimes because I wear my heart on my sleeve, but at the same time, like I just think Mark Briscoe showed such a good example of being a strong person and having that will and honor his brother. I was just hold it together and put a match together because you could just see how hurt he was about that match. So again, that was just a really good tribute, and I'm really glad that Warner Brothers listened to the fans. I'm glad that Tony Khan didn't give up, fighting for that tribute, because that was a worthy tribute, and it's just, and again, just kudos to Jay Briscoe's wife too. She's been shining light on the fact that, there was 2 victims in this crash, and asking people to donate to the family of mom who, those kids who don't have a mom anymore. Again, just a really class act altogether.
Uh-oh. We keep losing Carlos here.
Yes, we do.
Oh, dear. Carlos, are you still with us?
For Dynamite. For Rampage, opening match, between Wheeler and Hangman was a good thing. The one thing I don't like is I don't like seeing Wheeler lose matches like that, though, when he is the pure champion, because I feel like it just makes the belt seem less important. But then again, I feel like Tony Khan, even though he treats Ring of Honor with better care than McMahon ever did with WCW. Okay, he still wants people to know that AEW is a superior brand. So I did like how Wheeler used some of Moxley's moves, like catching himself on the through the ropes, and then he was biting Heyman too. Again, it just kind of shows that he's learning from Moxley, and that kind of feeds into that storyline. I didn't really like the suplex on the outside of the ring. I could have easily could have broke Heyman's neck. And for me, like, that's one thing I wish AEW would just clean up a little bit. It was not doing so many moves where you can hurt somebody, because again, if someone goes out, that move didn't really add to the match. I just wish they'd be more careful. The 6-man match was really fun. I was cracking me up with Danhausen going after Satnam Singh. Against kudos to them for sticking it out. I know when Satnam Singh first debuted, he was getting a lot of flack, but he's growing on me. And again, I just thought it was a fun match. I'm intrigued by what's going on with Ruby, and again, I'm interested to see what side that she chooses, if she goes with the originals or goes with the outsiders. The one guy, Tony, I forget the name they use, but he's a wrestler from Ohio Valley Wrestling. So again, I just kind of thought it was like, oh no, is AEW going the route of WWE now and wanting names that they can only use? I love the main event. I've been a big fan of Amy Sakura since the first time I saw her kind of I've always seen her on Dark and Dark Elevation. I thought they killed it. I hope that Amy gets utilized better more often on Dynamite and Rampage going forward. Again, I love her offense, and I just think she's very entertaining. And I just loved, like, at the end of the match, like how both women's chests were beat red. Like they went stiff, and again, I think they just brought it, and that was really cool. It was a really fun match to watch. That's all I got.
Okay, so for Dynamite, my opinions really didn't go that much against what Carlos was saying. The Jericho and Guevara versus Starks and Action Andretti. It was a great match. I thought it was a little bit short, but they also squoze 6 matches into this 2-hour event. Buddy Matthews versus Darby Allin. Again, I agree with Carlos. This was a great match. I definitely want to see more of Buddy Matthews. As far as Darby Allin goes at this point, I've come to the point where I just expect an amazing show out of him every time we see him. Matt Hardy and Ethan Page versus Jungle Hook. It was a really good match, and I love the fact that it came down to a tap-out victory. Bryan Danielson versus Brian Cage. Carlos, this one's for you, buddy. Brian Cage is starting to make a believer out of me. It was a great match. I love the roll-up victory, like you said, the protection. Tony Storm versus Ruby Soho, I thought was an okay match, but there just really wasn't any reason for the distraction from Britt. Jay Lethal versus Mark Briscoe is my absolute match of the week for regular TV programming. It was great to watch both Lethal and Briscoe get choked up. It was an excellent match. They killed it. But my favorite part of Dynamite was after that match. The amount of locker room love that came out to pay homage. That was beautiful. Rampage, wasn't that big of a fan of. Wheeler Yuta versus Hangman, it was a great match, but kind of like Carlos said, I think Yuta kind of got done a little dirty with the way that went down. Just, there wasn't any need for him to be dominated that much. Jay Lethal, Jeff Jarrett, and Satnam versus Best Friends in Downhausen. Yes, I giggled, but I'm kind of over the whole comedic thing right now. Hobbs versus Tony Mudd. I'm not even going to talk about it. Jamie Hayter versus Sakura was an amazing match. It was everything I expected out of both these women. I've watched Sakura quite a few times, and just the way she goes out there and composes herself, she's definitely a goddess of wrestling.
Yeah. My notes probably aren't going to be too much different. The only thing I will give kudos on the whole Rampage card is the women in the main event, which is good, rather than being in the middle and kind of feeling like a filler match.
Yeah.
This actually felt like a main event, and that's what Tony Khan really needs to be doing. He's got the talent to have the women really take that over, and I just wish he would focus that a little more with Dynamite.
Yeah.
But also the pay-per-views, or if he, even on Battle of the Belt specials. There's just no reason for them to kind of feel like they have to be in like a
specific
obligatory match,
Yeah.
Obligatory match, it drives me nuts when he treats them like that. I thought Dynamite actually rocked it for the card it was, especially the tribute when all the locker room came out and, paid their tribute, not just to Jay, but to both Jay Lethal and Mark Briscoe for performing that match.
Yep.
It was really kind of hard to watch, even Jay Lethal, because, before the bell even sounded, he had a hard time composing himself.
Yeah.
And like Carlos said, there's nothing wrong with the man crying. It was just, when you lose a brother that meant something very special to you, yeah, it hurts deep down. I mean, it's going to affect you in many ways. And I think the week before where you saw it did affect AEW quite a bit because one person who touches the hearts of many, it can take a toll. And this week, I think they kind of felt a little more regrouped. But, death is just one of those things where it takes a little bit of time for you to ease that pain. And I really hope that Mark Briscoe continues on with Ring of Honor and finds a way to keep contributing to that part of AEW. And hopefully they keep it going for a long while.
Maybe they need kind of like that Halloween Havoc wheel for AEW.
Spin the wheel, make the deal.
Spin the wheel for what order the matches go,
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if I would go that route. But it was a solid card throughout the week, and you couldn't get anything any better out of this company. I do feel Powerhouse Hobbs. He needs something thrown at him, lengthier matches, because he is big, he's powerful, but if you're just going to keep booking him as squashing people, you're really not doing anything with the guy, and I think he deserves a little bit better than that. So,
as far as Rampage goes, I mean, in AEW, no, I think it's good. Like, I like the slow build that they're building towards Revolution. And again, I think that's one thing that they benefit from for only having, the 4 pay-per-views. Well, 5 if you include Forbidden Door. It's just they get to do that slow build. But I like the direction the company's going in. And again, I just think that it's just, again, kudos to those guys. And again, I was just really admired the strength and that Mark Briscoe and Jay showed that main event. And again, like, it's just every week it's entertaining. They just have a good roster to just keep us entertained and always give us fresh matches. And I'm grateful for that. It's like a rock concert, like we were talking about on Friday.
Yeah. And big shout out to Mooncutters Sportscast. Our 2 co-hosts,
Absolutely.
Carlos and Brian, were just featured on there this past Friday, giving the Royal Rumble predictions, and they did a real awesome job. So, you guys sounded great. You gave some really great in-depth possible storylines and predictions, and it was really good. And listening to, was it Jeff? That's the host, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he had some really great stuff going on as far as his wrestling fandom too. So, but we won't fault him for hating on AEW. We'll just say that. So,
no, but again, he gave Impact Wrestling love though, and I think that's good. And again, the thing that I appreciate about us with this podcast and being asked to be a co-host and just everyone is like we really are creating a positive wrestling community. And it is really something where, we can have differences of opinion, but we all respect each other, and we all listen to each other, and again encourage each other to just to say what's on your mind, and not be afraid, and create a safe place for people to fantasy book or share their fandom, and I think it's just really cool to take the time to collaborate with people. And again, I just hope to keep adding more tools, to our tool belt as far as, different podcasts we get to collaborate with. And again, it's just, I'm really honored and proud to be a part of a positive wrestling community, because it can be so toxic on Twitter, and we're changing that narrative. And so again, I'm just grateful to be a part of that.
For sure. And I appreciate the shout out you and Brian gave to us too, as well, giving us that big boost of our egos there. Well, maybe my ego, but just kidding. But no, I do appreciate the credit you did give us for starting it, but we're only going to get better by keep bringing on the positive influence. Having you, Heather, and Brian added to the team is really going to be great stuff coming for us here in 2023. So Welcome back, and we're getting right to the meat of the podcast. We're going to go right over the 2023 WWE Royal Rumble. In the first event, we had the 30-man over-the-top Royal Rumble match, which I thought was a little odd because if you listen to our buddy Brian Ballard, who does a really awesome job with his YouTube channel, Tap Out Talk, he just did this a review over the Royal Rumble, and I have to kind of agree with him. I thought it was a little odd they started the opening with the men's Royal Rumble. For me, if you got a themed premium live event or pay-per-view event, I would save that as your actual main event. I don't know why they did that, but let's get right to it anyway. For the men's Royal Rumble, I think pretty much it was safe to say the majority called it. Winner ended up being Cody Rhodes. Well, why don't we just go ahead and break down each match as we talk about it? Let's start with Carlos.
That sounds like a good idea to me.
Yeah, why don't we start with you, Carlos?
So I shared in our group chat because I do join Fightful Select that this is actually going to open the card. And I do think it was the right decision because I think, like, if you're not going to have Sammy in the bloodline, it just they need to separate that, the two together. And so I liked it. The crowd was white hot for the men's Royal Rumble. So I have a lot of notes on this. So the one thing I want to say is I think Gunther was a made man at the Royal Rumble. And again, this makes me wonder if I feel like maybe Triple H is giving Vince McMahon crumbs. So stay away, but I'll feed you these crumbs of things that you might like. Because I feel like the one thing I kind of feel like about the men's Royal Rumble is that it looks like Karrion Kross has fallen out of favor with Triple H. Like he's out of his good graces. I mean, he was really, he didn't, lost to Ray on Friday, and he was kind of like wasn't even a factor in the men's Royal Rumble. So I thought that was a really kind of again, I was noticing that. The one thing I want to say too is I think it's time to stop with the special Kofi keeps his eliminations in an awesome fashion, like him avoiding elimination, because now this is 2 years in a row where he's missed his spots, and I think it's time to move on now. I do think that that him and Booker T were supposed to have a little stare down if he would have lasted. And again, kudos to me for calling Booker T as a surprise. But again, I think that was a missed opportunity. And again, I do like how Dom kind of got to shine in the Royal Rumble as well. I love the whole thing with Edge coming out, eliminating the Judgment Day besides Dom, and then Beth Phoenix coming out. I like that collision. I know Brian on Tap Out Talk wasn't a fan of it, but I thought that was a cool aha moment between Ricochet and Logan Paul. I just thought it was fire. I wouldn't mind seeing them in a match, eventually at Mania. The one thing I would say is, again, I think, we all kind of got ourselves wound up with all the different possibilities of who could show them. But I think they should have, if they were going to do more surprises, I think they should have just announced who was going to be in the Rumble instead of having it be the Street Profits and these guys. The one thing I wish we would have saw more of is I wish we would have saw some of the NXT stars in there, because I know we'll talk about the women's one later. But I think if they would have showcased some of the NXT roster guys in there, instead of having Elias and Alpha Academy, they could have 3 people from NXT. I feel like that would have made people want to tune into NXT more, and it could have been a good commercial for them. One thing I want to know is how much Brock made per second that he was in the Royal Rumble, because he wasn't in there very long. but I know he made a lot of money for it, so I would love to know the breakdown of what he made per second for the Royal Rumble. Again, I just thought a big congrats to Cody Rhodes. I thought that was a nice performance. The one thing that they did say, again on a Fightful Select report, was that his merchandise was flying off the shelves. And again, I'm glad that they stayed on track with him and gave him his match. And I love the line from Michael Cole. I think it was one step from the American Nightmare to becoming the American Dream. I thought that was just a really beautiful line. And again, I talked about this on Friday too when we were picking our winners, and I did pick Cody. One of us, again, I thought maybe The Rock was going to be in it, but I think it was really important for them to show the people at AEW, if you come over here, we know we're going to do you right. And I just love too what they said at the press conference with Cody. Again, he is the face. He's so good with his words and just talking about how Triple H really doesn't owe him anything, and doesn't have any reason. Again, I'm really happy for him. Again, it's and again like all the wrestlers and talent, were shooting tweets to Cody like, let's finish the story. I look forward to seeing what's going to happen at Mania.
Men's Royal Rumble, I don't have that much to say about it because Carlos pretty much kind of took it all. It's all good. I do want to show a lot of love to Gunther for that performance. He did a killer job. One of the things I wish I would have seen more of was Cody, a little more time inside the Rumble, like an earlier spot. I think that would have really, really pushed him further with the fans, even though he's way over as is. I pretty much predicted Cody wins too. I'm real interested to see just how far they go with him.
Yeah, my thoughts are as Gunther, whatever the hell you want to pronounce it. He definitely was the MVP that night. He lasted an hour and
10 plus minutes.
Was it an hour 10?
Yep.
Was officially recorded.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's the record now, I believe.
It is.
I think Rey Mysterio was an hour and 2.
Yep.
So I think Gunther is first, and Mysterio is now the second in all-time Rumble duration. So kudos to Gunther for that. He's definitely going to be a guy that's going to have big things coming his way here in the near future.
Yeah. One thing about him that I kind of don't like to see is when he starts trying to go into the higher risk moves. I think he's way better off just being a grounded wrestler.
Well, my opinion is I prefer the grounded stuff anyways.
Yeah.
I'm kind of along with, I can't believe I'm going to say it. I'm actually going to agree with Braun on this. Sometimes those, what does he call them? The flippity flippers or whatever?
Yeah.
Sometimes you really got to tone those down because you're looking at a lot of high risk.
You're looking at a lot of damage just over time.
And
a wrestler that comes along that's like that, we want to see him last for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely will be a little more rewarding on career longevity. But yeah, having high risk for injuries, possible injuries for shit like that, it definitely need to tone it down. I mean, Carlos even mentioned on the AEW segment where they're doing suplexes on the outside of the ring.
Yeah, they're getting a little bit crazy with all that.
I think we need to tone down a lot of that outside the ring type stuff anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I think if we can find ways to keep the matches more in the ring and a little bit on the safer side of things, you can still perform great matches doing that and still do some awesome storytelling.
Oh, yeah, so that was actually one of the moments that I did not like as well as far as the men's Royal Rumble. The thing between Logan Paul and Ricochet, why? Go ahead.
That one I will somewhat disagree with. I think
I thought it was cool too.
I thought it was cool, but it is something I would say do not repeat.
That's going to be a rough landing no matter what.
I mean, it's just like Carlos mentioning Kofi's trying to save himself from elimination. I think it's ran its course after last year when he botched it and he botched it again this year. It's time to just move away with that. Because now, if you noticed in the women's NXT Battle Royal for Roxanne Perez's next challenger, we saw a couple of moments where they tried to do a couple of Kofi Kingston moves and it backfired on them as well.
Yeah.
I mean, Sol Ruka performed it perfectly, but for Wendy Chu it didn't work out so well.
Yeah, see.
But I mean, it was planned there. I just don't think we need to keep doing that. I mean, for me, that just needs to stay exclusive with Kofi and leave it alone. But I think it's time for Kofi to retire that.
I agree, but my thing with that whole Ricochet and Logan Paul thing is not only is that going to be a rough landing, you risk puking all over everybody.
Well, not to mention, yeah,
shit their pants.
Not to mention.
She heard on the podcast like, oh man, I can only imagine the smell.
Yeah, we don't need to. Yeah. I think we'll just avoid that one.
Yeah. Anyways.
Yeah. Moving on.
But
Thanks a lot, guys.
The one thing I do hope out of the Royal Rumble too is going forward is I do hope that Logan Paul is going to be a heel now. Like he was totally doing heel tactics yesterday, and I hope going forward that he's come to terms with being a heel, because I think he's much better as a heel than a face.
Well, just like Ted the Hillbilly Hill mentioned the other day, is talent need to recognize when it's time to start doing the heel stuff, and this is the perfect example right here. This is where Logan Paul needs to be full on heel. If the crowd, I agree. If the crowd's going to give you the heat, accept it, embrace it, start performing it.
And I would, like I said in our chat, I would love to see him and Rollins at WrestleMania. I think that'd be an awesome match.
Right. All right. Well, we go on to the next match.
Pitch me out.
Wow.
Jeez. I didn't even get to announce the result yet, and Carlos is already puking on it. So, speaking of puke, for the pitch black match, we had Bray Wyatt defeat LA Knight, and we're going to go with Will to start off with this one.
Probably a good idea. So, in a way, I do agree with Carlos. It was kind of a blah match for being a Bray Wyatt match. I just felt like they tried to overdo it with the cool lighting and the paint. I think it'd be much better if they didn't apply that neon crap, but it did kind of fall flat for me. I think this would have been a better start off to the night.
Yeah, this. My only thoughts is, at first I thought the match was too short until they started doing the things post-match.
Yeah.
But to me, if it was a no disqualification, no countout match, why didn't they do that shit during the match?
Yeah, and let's be honest, that whole entire howdy jumping off the top, that did not go well.
Yeah, I mean,
it was a botch. Yeah,
it was cool in thought, but
botch.
Even who was it? I think it was Jason X who's been on our show before as a listener and interacted. He even said it right there in the tweet. Uncle Howdy missed that by a mile. I mean, it was pretty obvious he missed it by a mile.
He had too much pitch black Mountain Dew. He was on a sugar rush.
Yeah. Yeah, he missed it by a mile, but I give kudos for the thought and process in how it would have been if...
It was a great creative idea, yeah.
If it was put in better spot.
And not a papier-mâché floor.
Right. To me, this should have happened during the match, had the pinfall count anywhere.
Yep.
And they would have given Bray or LA Knight, whoever, the perfect pin right there.
Yep.
I don't think it buried LA Knight as some people thought it might have if he took the loss. I think the match wasn't great itself, so you can't really say it buried either guy.
Yeah.
It just could have definitely been
more.
Well, it should have been better thought out. Carlos, I know you've already said some of it, but do you have any more on this match?
So I know a lot of our friends are Bray Wyatt fans, so I kind of want to watch my tongue a little bit, but the one thing I do want to say about this, and I know that Brian talked about it on Tap Out Talk, is I really, and again, I'm okay with that, but I really do feel like this whole premium live event was like a big commercial for, hey, we're for sale, and look what we can do, like as far as bringing corporate sponsorships in, and then when they had the musical performance later on that day. And then the time with the Women's Royal Rumble match, I really do think they're just trying to show the prospective buyers of look at all the different possibilities that you could have if you do buy us, and look at the different money, look at the different ways you guys could make money with the WWE, So again, I don't blame them for that, we still got to enjoy the event, but I'm with Brian, but he said I don't want to see it. I don't want to see, and even like that. I don't want to see they're gonna start putting ads on wrestlers' trunks next. It just takes away from it a little bit. But I get it. But at the same time, to me, like having a sponsor for that kind of match just took away from the spookiness for me of it. I wasn't a fan of the match at all, and again, I feel like maybe people want to like Bray more than they really do because the crowd just didn't seem into the match at all to me. Like the crowd just kind of died after the Men's Royal Rumble, and again it felt kind of flat to me. And again, it just the whole match just fell flat. And again, after all those good promos and everything else, and I just don't get it. Like, so 1 week Uncle Howdy's attacking Bray and giving it, and then the next, and then now he's helping him or jumping off on LA Knight. It's just the whole storyline is so concluded and just mixed up. And I'm just looking for some clarity, I guess. But again, I'm still willing to give it a chance, but I'm just not interested. Even like when I was giving the group in our group chat the list of possible I left Bray on there. I didn't even see him as a top match, for Mania. So again, I think they do have a Bray Wyatt problem. I think like it just needs. I don't think they need to just figure out where they want to go with it. And for me, like I just honestly want to see him as a heel. I mean, and that might be part of the problem too. Like I want to see him as a badass heel and not the top babyface of SmackDown.
All right, moving on to the Raw Women's Championship match. The champion Bianca Belair retains against Alexa Bliss. I kind of felt it was a solid match. It's solid match, but it just didn't do it. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
this kind of felt like what AEW does to their women roster. It was just bad placement, and
this was a match, and I haven't ever said this before on this podcast, but for me. For me, this was a dry match. It was solid, like John said, but it was just, like Carlos said, boring.
Yeah, I didn't find anything
there was nothing
spectacular about it. I think they did Alexa Bliss dirty in some ways.
Absolutely.
I mean, there was just nothing to it.
There really wasn't. It's basically they had a match to further try to tell the story of Alexa Bliss afterwards.
Well, that was the point of their first match on Raw a few weeks back. And it just, like, okay, we continued the storyline for what? This was very, very disappointing.
That match wasn't even worthy of a Raw main event. Like it was horrid. And again, were they trying again? The one thing I do want to know is again were they trying to cut time? Did they have to cut time in the match because the Men's Royal Rumble went over? But at the same time, I don't really feel it didn't feel like they were hurting for time with the whole card because it is a premium live event. So again, the whole match just fell flat to me. And I'm just thinking, man, poor Bianca. Like she was on such a roll. And I feel like her whole momentum's just been killed. And again, like the crowd, I didn't feel like the crowd even erupted for her like they usually do when she came out. Maybe, and again, it could have just been that the crowd went on such an emotional roller coaster with the Men's Royal Rumble being first that they needed time to recuperate. But it just fell flat to me. Yeah, maybe they were the victim. Maybe they were the victim of placement because of where the Men's Royal Rumble went. But it was just you can win a crowd back with a good match, and that just wasn't a good match.
Well, and I think, like Brian mentioned in Tap Out Talk in his recent review of the Royal Rumble product placement with all the sponsors, that's kind of similar with these cards. If you don't place it right, it's gonna really turn to shit real quick. I'm sorry.
and for me, like that's the thing where maybe next year, it's like it's okay not to have a women's title match. We already, like they don't. Maybe they need to stop feeling like they need to have a women's title match just because there's a women's Royal Rumble match, and they can, like, you could have just had the two champs at the ring like they did before when they had Alexa and Charlotte there the one year. You don't need to have a women's title match just because of the women's Royal Rumble match. Like I would have much rather seen, Imperium versus the Brawling Brutes again rather than see that match. To be honest.
Yeah. All right, let's go right into the women's Royal Rumble match. The winner ends up being, I think, also very predictable, Rhea Ripley. And why don't we start with you, Will?
Oh, okay. So the women's Royal Rumble to me, the start of it was extremely slow, which was kind of irritating to me. I didn't like the fact that it followed up another women's match that didn't go that well. I think they chose the right people to be involved in this match. There were 3 women in particular that shined to me throughout this. Rhea Ripley, obviously, won. Liv Morgan. But the one that was a surprise to me, and I was really glad that they actually put more light on her, was Sonya Deville. And I think everything with this got a lot better as time went on with the match. I think they executed this pretty well.
Yeah. Carlos?
So I made this comment online yesterday in a tweet, and I stand by. So I honestly feel like this women's Royal Rumble match was an absolute reset for the women's division in WWE, and I look forward to seeing what Triple H does with this in the future. I mean, from Piper Niven getting her name back to the new Asuka. I mean, I don't know if you guys could tell, like Natalia they had a new theme song for Natalia, I believe. Like even I think Tamina had a new theme song. I feel like this was the reset. And I'm looking forward to like what they do in the future with the women's division, because I feel like this is where Triple H is going to show where he's different from Vince McMahon, and I do feel like this was a total reset for the women's roster. Again, it might have been a little slow at first, but at the same time, I'm glad that they let the women shine. Like I'm glad they gave Tegan Knox a little time in there. I'm glad they didn't eliminate Emma right away. Like yeah, maybe like this was the chance to really build those characters, and I agree. Like with what Will said, like I'm actually because of the way that they highlighted Sonya Deville. I'm actually looking forward to her match with Charlotte now, and I actually do see her as a possible threat to Charlotte, even though I know Charlotte's going to win. I think they did a really good job of damage control. They really made me interested in damage control now. Like I'm actually going to buy into them. And again, I did notice they kind of dropped the damage control, like the hip hop song thing. Again, I don't know if they're going to play when all three of them come out. But like Io Sky's song is banging, and she has like lights with her song, And they brought Dakota's theme song back, and again, I just really like that. The one thing I do like is that they highlighted the Roxana Perez. They highlighted Indy Hartwell. The one thing I wish is Indy Hartwell would have came out with Candice. I wish we would have got that moment. I think they did a really good job of highlighting Zoe Stark. I think she looked like a really good threat. Again, move her up to the main roster. And again, Roxana Perez, I think, had a good showing. And again, that's where I think they missed it on the men's Royal Rumble, because now, I mean, if I wasn't a fan of NXT, and after seeing Zoe Stark and Roxana, how they balled in that match, I would definitely tune in to kind of check them out on NXT. And again, just giving the women a chance to shine. I love the whole thing with Michelle McCool being in the crowd and then having her come out to fight. I thought that was a really cool segment. And again, I'm really proud of Triple H for only having the one legend in there, Michelle, and just really utilizing his roster. And I think it just speaks volumes to what he's trying to build with the women too. The fact besides her and the three NXT talent, they had enough women to fill in the roster besides Chelsea and then Nia Jax coming back. So I was listening to Fightful, and the one thing with Chelsea is like I guess her gimmick is going to be supposedly like she's going to be a Karen, and so I'm really excited to see how that turns out with her. And I think you can kind of see the little seeds being planted with that, how she was coming out to the ring and how she was getting all mad after she got booted out. Again, just seeing the repackage of Piper Niven and Asuka was amazing. Again, they just look like they look like badasses, and again, I said the Piper Niven, they were both made. Piper Niven was made in that match too. I'm excited to see where Asuka goes in that. And I do think, I know a lot of fans are shitting on Nia Jax. And again, she looks heavier than she's ever been. But at the same time, she does have something to add. And she is a role model for plus-size women. And again, put her in the bloodline. Why not? Naomi's not coming back yet. Put her in the bloodline. And again, I think that I think she'd be a perfect opponent for Charlotte at WrestleMania, because I don't think the fans would turn on Charlotte because I think they hate Nia Jax. So why not put her in there with somebody that she really hates? And I love the ending of the match. Again, them all being outside and the mist. And I love how Liv was still trying to fight with mist in her eyes. Like, she just showed a lot of heart. So I think she was made in that match in addition to Rhea. And again, Asuka again was just shown more as a badass. So I really enjoyed the women's Royal Rumble match. I thought they really did a good job.
Yeah, I think the opening kind of started off really slow, but like Brian mentioned in his Tap Out Talk review, I think if you tune in to probably the last 10 to 15 minutes of the Women's Rumble, that pretty much told it right there. Seeing the way Rhea and Liv went all the way to the very end there, that was really great showing on both competitors. Sonya Deville definitely looked like a badass in there. I thought Damage Control came out better than what they did going in. They showed unity and could show they're a force to reckon with. However, I think their time in the Rumble was just a little too short. I think they could have been left in there just a little bit longer. Maybe even stirred it up with a few new people to go up to have some new rivalries against. Other than that, yeah, I think the Rumble for the women's was a little better than what most give it credit for. I don't think it was great, but I don't think it was bad by any means. Just very solid. And going right in. Sorry.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No.
Like, and again, I just want to reiterate. Like again, like I think the way fans need to look at it is like, I think now, like if you think about it, you are going to be more interested in Damage Control. Like you are going to be more interested in Raquel Rodriguez. Like I think they did a good job of just letting the women showcase and letting the fans get more interest in this women's roster. You know, I think that's what fans need to look at. Like they gave the women a chance to shine and show a little bit of what they could do in the ring. So I think that was a mission accomplished for them in the Women's Royal Rumble.
I 100% agree with that. Going right into the meat of the whole thing. Easy. For the undisputed WWE Universal Championship, Roman Reigns retains against Kevin Owens, and this was one hell of a match. I'm going to go with Carlos to start off on this one.
So, this match was just, I mean, like, I think, like, Sami Zayn deserves an Emmy Award. Like, at this point, like, the guy is just acting is so good. And again, like, we were talking about, like, again, the guy Greg was talking about on the podcast, like, he had it right with he didn't have it right about the Royal Rumble, but the whole Jey Uso thing. I thought that match was just well done. Again, I think Kevin Owens came out looking good. Like the fact he got so many kickouts and just the emotion. I mean, that they took us on an emotion roller coaster, and I wasn't expecting that, to be honest. I didn't. I think I kind of thought the Usos were going to come out before, and the match just really delivered for me. I mean, I was on an emotional high after that thing, and yeah, I think they got to where they wanted to go to, and I think it was time. Again, that was just an amazing card. Again, just everybody looks strong. The emotion of it, again, it's like I'm interested to see where they go, because I mean that crowd was already. I mean, they are igniting Sami as a face too, but they're also igniting Jey Uso as a face. Again, I think I'm excited to see where it goes. And again, for me, I'm still holding up that little glimmer of hope that The Rock's going to come back. You know, like I talked about, you know, you share the tweet with us about Aaron from I forget the name of his thing, but Aaron from No DQ, I think it is, or
Aaron
just sharing
Riff.
about Aaron Riff showing about the thing about, you know, makes a good storyline thing about what he was saying about, you know, Jay eventually turning it. But again, I think it's just really good for Bloodline storyline. Just there's so many layers there that still have not even began to get peeled yet. And again, I'm just really excited to see where they go with it. Again, I wouldn't mind seeing The Rock and Jey Uso versus Jimmy and Roman at night one as a special attraction. And then at night two, we get the championship matches, because the Usos still have to defend for the tag matches. I do think Sami gets the title match at Elimination Chamber. But I mean, man, that was just such an emotional roller coaster of a main event. And man, I was on an emotional high for a good 2 hours after watching that.
Yeah. So, for me, this came off as probably my favorite Roman Reigns match that I've ever seen. It was an incredible match. The little bit of a botch where Kevin landed pretty bad had me concerned, but he recovered from that. The reason that I love this match so much, besides what Carlos said, was the fact that there really wasn't that much interference. And that's what got me to like it even more. The afterwards attacking KO, and then the turn, of course, that we've been waiting for a while. I think they played it really well. And not just Sami throwing that good emotional acting. Jay did an incredible job on his acting, too.
Yeah, you see him completely conflicted on trying to figure out whether, you know, he's very distraught with the way Sami turned on Roman with the chair shot to the back.
Yeah, which way do you go with it?
Yeah, and I think it's kind of leading right to where I was thinking before. I think we're going to eventually see Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn reunite, team up, and take one of those two tag team championships, if not both, from the Usos.
Yeah.
Cody Rhodes is definitely going to take a title off Roman Reigns. One or both. Not sure which yet. We're waiting to kind of see how this whole thing's going to play, because it's also going to depend on what they're going as far as the Chamber event here. I think we're going to see Sammy against Roman for sure.
I wouldn't mind actually seeing Jay and Roman go at it again.
Yeah. Jey Uso?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm kind of with Aaron Rift on this one. I think we're going to see a little bit of a kind of like a healing moment for Jey Uso, and he'll stick it out with the bloodline. But I don't know. Maybe after the Usos lose the championships.
Yeah, I fully expect to see the Usos turn face again.
Have that, or we see Jay break away from Jimmy, and Jimmy continues on with Solo. Like, I think it was either Carlos or Brian mentioned that on Mooncutters.
Well, I think that like you just said, like it's time to see, like I think George was saying on Mooncutters, it's time to see the return of main event Jey Uso. And again, he has been somebody who's had a lot of emotion, and he's somebody who's done a lot of character development. And I don't want to be that like Vince and just break up tag teams, but I do think that Jay does have the right to be a main event player, and be someone who could be like a main event guy, and maybe it is either him and Roman or him and Solo, or Jay and Roman, or Roman at WrestleMania 40. I think that there's still a lot of layers to this, and again, like it'd be interesting to see they can still do it without the titles being involved. I do think that Jay he's earned the right to see what he can do again as a singles wrestler, because he's just. Man, he's so dramatic, and he can just bring that emotion out of you for sure. And so I wouldn't mind seeing that at all,
Well, and if you remember the two matches he had with Roman before they started the bloodline angle, you know, it just, I mean, you definitely know Jay's got it in him to be a single star. I mean, there's no doubt. I mean, if and not to totally knock on Jimmy, but if he can kind of keep it clean and not do any more stupid stuff behind the scenes, on the personal side, I mean, I wouldn't doubt Jimmy could have a good singles run as well. But
I think he could. The one thing I worry about Jimmy is not just what you said, but his knees. He's taken a lot of hits on those knees.
No, I haven't even really paid attention to that part.
Over the years, he's been out several times over that.
That's true. That is good visual there, or good observation.
Yeah.
God, I can't get my words right today. Yeah, I thought Sammy did a really great job telling the story after the match. Trying to play that, he's going to do whatever for the bloodline until he realizes how defenseless his longtime best friend was, and it just finally took a toll on him, and got tired of Roman condescending him enough to finally he stood up for himself, and that definitely got one hell of a pop from everybody there at the Alamo Dome.
I loved the chair shot. He was just so dead on it.
Well, and the motion he was showing on his face right as he was ready to hit him, like he threw everything into that chair shot from all this doubt that Roman's had on him the last few weeks, and he finally had enough, and he let it out. I mean, just like any other normal human emotion in real life, you get to a point where you hit a limit, you break, and wha-bam, there it is.
Yeah, I'm about that way with the snow.
Yeah.
But there's so many different ways they can take this too, and again, like I think that's the beauty of the storyline is like there's very little. We got as fans, we got to really cherish these times where it's like, man, we don't know where this is going yet, because again, like it could be the point where like Sammy's like, I was with you, but why'd you have to keep pushing me to like turn me back against you, and that's where Jay's conflicting. There's just so many different ways they can still take this, and it's just it's fun to watch, and it's the unpredictable. I mean, even though it's predictable, it still is very unpredictable where the emotion goes with it, and it's just gonna be very cool to just see it all unravel, and again they're starting WrestleMania season off with a bang, and I do think Triple H with this and everything else they hit it out of the park, with this and the Royal Rumble matches.
Well, I know whose emotions were rolling high when Sammy landed that shot, and that was our co-host Heather.
Oh yeah,
yeah. She's probably got holes in her ceilings from jumping so high and excitement. But shout out to you, Heather. Hope you're doing well, and hope you're back with us next week. But yeah, I can definitely see her jumping up and down on that one for sure. Oh lordy!
And it did a good job of just too of just keeping Roman as a heel. Like I said, like the fans were so against him, man. They were hating his guts. That was cool.
Yeah, that was actually the first time I heard that chant.
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, exactly.
And shout out to
they acknowledge him. They acknowledge him with their finger, all right?
yeah. Wrong one up. But shout out to also mad scientist Damian Scott on Twitter. He did a question where I definitely said yes, and is Roman Reigns the biggest heel ever? And I say after last night, yes. I mean, I would say he's played the best. I guess you can say the best strong heel.
The way I would word it is, whether the fans love him or hate him, it's strong on both sides for the heel.
Yeah. I mean, if you really want to say best heel ever, I think him and MJF are kind of having the run out of the money. But MJF plays the best chicken shit heel.
Yeah.
And stays in kayfabe, where obviously Sammy's got Roman to break a couple of times in some segments, but as far as very strong dominating heel, I think Roman pretty much takes that cake. I mean, there's no other person I could say could almost stay that way other than way back in the day, Bad News Brown.
I think if Christian was more present, he could probably.
Yeah, I mean, Christian definitely knows he can show what a prickish heel he can be.
Well, I mean, for me though too, like I mean, for me the best heel I think is someone who doesn't play a good face.
Yeah, and
so for me, like I think Christian played a good face. Like I think it's just somebody who makes the fans hate him so much you never want to see him as a face. And I think that is definitely MJF.
Oh yeah, definitely, and I got proof of that.
And he lives, like you said, he lives his gimmick. He lives his gimmick.
I can definitely vouch for that being on the first Jericho cruise I went on. So he definitely plays it up 24/7. So
yeah.
But anyways, we're going to wrap it up here on the Royal Rumble. We're going to come back from break, and we're going to go right into our top 10. It is time for the top 10s for the week. And we're going to just go from 10 to 1 on each person here. Why don't we go ahead and start off with Carlos?
So my number 10 was Buddy Matthews.
Alrighty.
My number 10 was Emi Sakura.
Yeah, my number 10 goes to everyone's favorite in the wrestling world, Logan Paul.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm going to get some shit for that.
Yeah, you're definitely going to get some from me.
my whole thing with Logan Paul was could someone have passed him some Tanner? I mean, my goodness, was he trying to be Sheamus? I'm like,
maybe. What was it, John Cena?
Oh, my goodness. Gimmick infringement. Oh, yeah, John Cena, too. I'm like, dude, Tanner.
I was going to say, what was it John Cena called Sheamus? A human jar of mayonnaise or something like that?
Yeah.
Years ago.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh.
All right, Carlos, you're number 9.
The Machine, Brian Cage.
Nice.
I'm a little shocked he's that low on your list.
I am too.
Are you feeling okay?
You know, I had to give the top parts to more of the Rumble guys. You'll be seeing my Brian Cage sign when I go to Dynamite in Sacramento.
All right. Yeah,
I might jump the rail with Phil's muscles. You never know.
Oh boy, this is gonna be getting interesting here. All right, Will.
I don't know if I can think after what he just said. My number 9 is Hangman Adam Page.
Yeah, my number
You
9.
guys
What?
and apology, but when me and Brian reveal the name of our tag team, you'll be speechless. Let me just.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Well, my number 9 is probably kind of way underranked. I probably should have put him much higher in my list, but I went with Gunther.
That is low. My gosh.
That's pretty low.
I was re-looking at my list. I'm like, oh man, I kind of.
It's okay.
I did Gunther really dirty on this one, so
Just call it a mulligan. Do better next week. So.
yeah. Well, thanks for that.
Someone was sick. He's like, hurry up, let's get this over with.
Yeah, Will's gonna give me the bad monkey here. So, number 8, Carlos.
Emi Sakura.
Wow.
Nice.
I feel bad because I probably should have put her on my list, but I didn't.
Wow.
That's because you hate women's wrestling.
Whoa.
Oh.
No, I'm just kidding. Shots fired.
Wait till he hears my next few here. So yeah.
We're gonna move on to Will's number 8. It's Kiana James.
Yeah.
Nice.
My number 8, I had. I know it's gonna be shitted on because many people did not agree with me, but I gave it to both Bray Wyatt and LA Knight. I thought they were solid, so. But yeah,
Are you feeling okay? I'm like, are you feeling okay?
Gunther should have been probably in that spot before them. So yeah, I'll take the heat for that this week.
Did they send you a case of Mountain Dew? Did you get a case of Pitch Black Mountain Dew on your doorstep, and that's why you rated them there, or what?
Well, if they did a 0 sugar of it, I probably would do.
They do. They have it. They have it.
Do they?
I just saw. Yeah, I'm gonna try it today. Yeah, 0 sugar-free one. Yep, 0 sugar. Yep.
Oh, let me know how it tastes. Maybe I'll give it. Maybe I'll give it a try. But this was today's supposed to be my last cheat day, and I'm going back onto a strict diet for a little while. I have to shed some pounds that I regained here, so.
I'm right with you, so I'm all about the sugar-free.
All right, Will. Wait a minute.
It's Carlos's turn.
It's Carlos's on number 7.
So for all those haterades out there, our number 7 was Jamie Hayter.
Ooh.
It's actually not bad. Number 7, mine was the Creed brothers.
Well, my number 7, I'm with Carlos, Jamie Hayter.
Nice.
Woo!
Well, hang on. We'll see how the rest of this goes. So,
right.
Since I'm a woman hater all of a sudden. But number 6, Carlos.
Jay Lethal.
All right, Will.
Rhea Ripley.
I went with Bianca Belair. And for Carlos's number 5.
Rhea Ripley.
Wow.
Not bad. Carlos, my number 5 is Brian Cage.
Oh, nice. Welcome to the team.
my number 5 is Hangman Adam Page. Going on to number 4.
The American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes.
My number 4, which I think is rightfully placed, Gunther.
Way to rub that in. I'm smelling the shit right now. So my number 4 went to Rhea Ripley. Number 3, Carlos?
Gunther!
Son of a bitch.
Yes.
You do.
The properly placed one.
You both are just doing that shit on purpose.
No, we actually watched the programming.
Oh.
Ooh, dug that one in too.
First off,
I didn't just write a bunch of women's names down, so I didn't seem like a woman hater. Oh, let me put some women in here real quick.
first off, you have now just officially placed my number 1 in the list.
Oh,
Will.
get over it.
Yeah. You both just suck. Anyways, number 3, Will.
Buddy Matthews.
My number 3, I went with the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes. Number 2.
I put the Bloodline and KO together, just the whole main event match.
Nice.
All right.
I thought you were going to say that just in spite Heather or something for not showing up.
No.
Oh, okay.
My number 2, Cody Rhodes.
My number 2 went to Mark Briscoe. All right, and now we're to the number 1. Everyone's favorite number.
My number 1 was Mark Briscoe. Again, just for just the strength he showed in that match and holding it together. I guess again, just a good role model and just a good show of being somebody that people want to admire. I just thought it was a beautiful tribute to his brother.
Nice.
All razzing aside to my brother, I'm with you here, Carlos, for your number 1 and number 2. My number 1 is Jay Lethal and Mark Briscoe.
Nice. I feel it.
Well, you can't really razz me because I put Mark Briscoe in my number 2. My number 1 and number 2 were really...
Oh, I razzed you for the rest of your list, though.
Oh, yeah, you did. But, you know, the thing of it is my number 1 and number 2 were really hard to place because I thought both of them were very deserving of their spots. It was really, really a deep one for me to think of. And I think after last night's performance at the Royal Rumble, this guy definitely deserved it. And Heather's I know is popping hard when I'm gonna say this, but Sami Zayn turning on the bloodline. Sami Zayn is my number 1 for the week. He sold it.
So you're feeling Usi, huh?
Oh, I'm feeling more than Usi, buddy, here. But yeah, I think Sami Zayn, who has done one hell of a remarkable job these past few months, extending this storyline, which was actually supposed to kind of started drifting its way earlier than this, and they played it so well with the fans getting into it so much more that, you know, seeing the betrayal finally happen, and we're going to see great things coming up here shortly when WrestleMania hits, and probably even more next month when we see what are they calling the event? Just the Eliminator or the Chamber?
Elimination Chamber.
I think they took out Elimination, though. I think they just calling it the Chamber. I could be wrong, though. I could be wrong.
Huh.
But, yeah, I think we're going to see lots of great things here develop as things break away, as Kevin and Sami reunite. Jey Uso stay conflicted with the whole Sami deal, but again, I see it as Jey still sides with Bloodline. I could be wrong.
I don't know where they're going with it, but the one thing I want to say that I've actually enjoyed about the Bloodline storyline the whole way through is just how much it showcased everybody's talent.
Yeah. I think Roman and the Usos have brought more prestige to the championships with these long reigns. I know many wrestling fans who are of younger generation than we are kind of tired of seeing it, but what they don't understand is as fast paced as this is, you didn't see very short reigns like what you have in the last 2.5 decades.
Yeah, no, like you take a look at Bruno Sammartino's reign.
You look at Bruno Sammartino, Bob Backlund,
Yeah.
Fabulous Moolah, Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, I mean, we put up with years and years of title reign.
Yeah, I mean, it's very awesome to see that they have went with this long of a reign for Roman and the Usos. I mean, when John Cena had a pretty lengthy run with the WWE Championship, JBL with a lengthy championship run, CM Punk with a lengthy run. It's not very...
It's not a common occurrence anymore.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's not a very common thing to see that. Whenever I see a title reign last less than 2 months, to me, I kind of see that as a transitional champion, and I don't like that.
It's bothersome to me, too. I think at least 6 months.
Yeah, I mean, if you get 6 months out of the reign, to me, it seems like you give that title a little more legitimacy for what it's supposed to be.
I wouldn't be upset if Cody just got the WWE title and Roman kept the Universal title for another year.
Yeah, I mean, that is kind of the direction I'm hoping they go in. Me
too.
If they take a title off Roman, I'd rather see it be the WWE Championship than the Universal Championship.
I kind of think that is the way they're going with it because of something I noticed with the commentary.
Just one title. They just keep saying one title, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They kept on mentioning for the Universal title.
Yeah. I think if they were to take the WWE Championship off Roman and the Raw Tag Team Championships off the Usos,
Yeah.
I think that would be a good start from the breakaway there before the bloodline totally disassembles. If they disassemble, who knows?
I mean, honestly, I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind seeing them take the SmackDown titles off the Usos, just because SmackDown has a stronger tag division, and I rather and let the Usos keep going over on both brands. That's my preference.
Yeah, like that could be a good way to go about it as well. I wouldn't be opposed to that. But anyhow, yeah, for that part, we're wrapping up our top 10. Why don't we just go ahead and get into our weekly shout-outs? We'll start with Carlos.
Again, just a shout out to Mooncutters Podcast for having me and Brian on there this week. That was a lot of fun. And again, again, Patrick who's joining us. Just appreciate you, Patrick, a lot. Just appreciate your interactions. To my boy Jay Henry, to Sarah Execution Editor 4, Infrared Ralph. And again, I'll leave the rest of the shout outs up to you. Thanks.
Well, thank you. Will, do you have any shout outs?
Okay, so we're just going to be honest about the fact that I'm really not that involved with the community as much as everybody else, but I did take some time to listen to We Laughed, We Learned.
Oh, they're great.
I couldn't stop listening to it until it was time for me to actually have to leave for work.
They do a good job on that podcast.
Ted the Hillbilly Hill, OBJS, Mooncutters, all of our fans, plus our own team. Thank you, everybody, for everything.
I want to give shout out, redundant, to Commander J, Patrick Pucci, Amber Holly, who we saw in the room earlier. Yeah, we saw you, Amber. We love you. Also want to give one shout out to one I just recently saw now, Daniel. I hope I don't butcher your last name, Bo the second, co-host of the Off the Bench podcast. Also want to give a shout out to Austin Boyer, Wrestling World, BC Hunter, Jay Myers at Wrestling with the Truth. They're doing an interesting one this year called Wrestle with the Wars, going over the Monday Night Wars. So give them a listen if you remember that era and try to bring back some good old memories from those days. Also want to shout out Augusto All Elite. Today We Laughed, We Learned, Chimed In Podcast, Ken, Mr. Gentleman Podcast, the 8750 Podcast with Yeti F. And right now Kelsey Balls sounds like Kayla Schwag's out for a little bit. Hopefully she's doing better. If I understood the reasoning why she's really off the podcast at the moment. And also want to give a big shout out to Jim over at Fan in the Van, who does a really awesome job weekly. He's also done a spin-off of his normal podcast called Steeler Talk. So give him a check out every once in a while if you think about it as well. And without any further ado, we'll go ahead and give our closing credits. Thank you to Lipson for hosting our podcast and making us available to every audio platform out there. While we're at it, you can listen to us on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcast, Deezer, Ghana, and we also have a YouTube channel. And I also forgot to mention our big one, The Good Pods. Also, check us out on Facebook under the groups The Fans of Pro Wrestling. We also have our webpage, Wrestling Fans Insight. Remember, Insight spelled INCITE. And go to there. You can actually catch all of our the links that you can listen to our podcast on that page. And while we're at it, on our Twitter accounts, Carlos, you want to give yours?
He must be checking the score again.
I think we might have possibly lost Carlos.
Oh, dear.
Why don't you go ahead and give your Twitter handle, Will?
All right, mine's at William Hoppe, Hoppe 8.
My Twitter handle, at John, JOHNWF Insight. You can also follow the podcast count, at WF Insight Podcast. We may have pretty much lost Carlos for the day, so you can follow Carlos two different ways. He's got at C to the LOS 77. You can also follow his nonprofit company at Conquer the No, and also two of our other co-hosts. Brian Ballard, he is at the Brian Adkins, Brian with a Y, and our female co-host Heather at Bama, BAMA Girl, GIRL underscore number 4 underscore EVA, Bama Girl Forever. So, without any further ado, we will be back again next Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time here on Twitter Space. We wish you all a great week, and we will catch you next Sunday.